Walk with me.
Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwellest between the cherubims, shine forth. Turn us again, O God, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. O I am God of hosts, how long wilt thou be angry against the prayer of thy people? Thou feedest them with the bread of tears, and givest them tears to drink in great measure. Thou makest us a strife to our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Turn again, O God of hosts, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast out the heathen and planted it. Thou preparest room before it, and thou didst cause it to take deep root, and it filled the land. The hills were covered with the shadow of it, and the boughs thereof were like the goodly cedars. She sent out her boughs unto the sea, and her branches unto the river. Why hast thou then broken down her hedges, so that all they which pass by the way do pluck her? The boar out of the wood doth waste it, and the wild beast of the field doth devour it. Return, we beseech thee, or beg thee, O God of hosts. Look down from heaven, and behold and visit this vine, and the vineyard which thy right hand has planted, and the branch, excuse me, that thou madest strong for thyself, is burned with fire, and is cut down, and they perish at the rebuke of thy countenance. Let thy hand be upon the man of thy right hand, and upon the Son of Man whom thou hast made strong for thyself. So will not we go back from thee? Quicken us, and we will call upon thy name. Turn us again, O I am God of hosts, cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. Psalms chapter 80. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray, O my God. Establish thou me and my seed forever, that we go not astray henceforth and forevermore. Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, those of you on this platform and those platforms that are shared. And we thank God for those of you that have just been with us with the hand clap of praise. We thank God for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, and those of you that have joined here and there's about, and even those of you who have just subscribed or followed. We thank God for you, and we thank God for those of you that are about to follow or subscribe, and we call those things that are not as though they are. Yes, all praises to the Most High, even He who created all things. Yes, we say He. I was just getting off a post where some woman called herself God. She don't get it. She don't get it at all, but the fact is that ignorant is known of her children, and wisdom is too. Now, we're in the book of Jasher. We've just read how that Zepho, which was an Edomite, or one of the children of Esau, was crowned ruler over Italy and even Shittim, or Chittim, however you all want to say it. And how the Egyptians took, after Joseph and all his sons died, the Egyptians made the children of Jacob serve with rigor. They injured the Israelites. In other words, they started making them slaves. Now, this wasn't the worst of slavery. The worst of slavery began in Americas, regardless of whether you call yourself here in Americas, or they might have brought a portion of you here on ships. But there were Israelites here in America, and they were people of color, or should I say, of Negroid features here in the United States. And more than likely they were Hamites. Many of them were Hamites that were here. Now, because in my estimation, it's just mine, the world, according to the hypothesis of the way the continents are shaped, it was one world, and people traveled. I mean, people just didn't stay where Mount Ararat is over beyond the Euphrates River, but they came down. So you really can't say people are not. Africa was a place, people passed through Africa, but not everybody, even Africans are not Africans, to tell you the truth. It's not even that. I mean, these things they have hypothesized and done is not even valid. So the fact is that we come from a people, and that people was not a continent. That people was a man, a woman, and his 3 sons. And that was Noah, his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth. This is where we come from. Especially those of you that are of dark-skinned hue. You know, we come from these people. And nobody is what they deem as an African. No. Nobody came from that continent, passed through the continent, but not there. And there's no way a person can prove it. Now, you had cartographers even so that said that when they got to the Americas, now this was way after the lands have divided. Because the lands had it divided somewhere after Noah. Somewhere after Noah. Even now, God sends a sign that the land's divided, and it doesn't take long for the lands to divide when they are set to divide, period. Look at what's happening to Africa now. It's dividing again. It doesn't mean that Africa was the first country or the continent on the face of the earth. It could have been, you got volcanoes there, and you got volcanoes in the U.S., you got volcanoes in the north parts, in the east. Yes, you got volcanoes everywhere where it depends on which one came first. So we really don't have a sure, strong foundation on how the lands were formed and what order they were formed. We don't have a sure foundation on that. Because there's so much confusion in the land. Sometimes you just accept what you accept and just go on about your business. Stop trying to prove it to the other person because it's so true. Now, if you say all that, how did the Aborigines get to Australia? Was Australia not a part of the whole collective of the land called Earth? Let's make a buck a buck. Let's reason here. I mean, you got to look at common sense too. See, all this stems from a certain group of people trying to prove themselves as pure, holy, and righteous, and wanting to, should I say, dominate the earth, period. All the continents. Many move to a secluded spot and treat people like dogs and say, who seeth us? Who can help us? Who can help them? No, it don't work like that. Now, they get there, they destroy all the fruit trees, all the everything. I mean, there's nothing, you can't even hardly pluck any food off the ground on the continents of, or should I say, for right now, it's just the United States and Canada. You can't even pluck it off the ground, even in the wintertime in Canada. I mean, when it turned spring, fruits were growing. But because of the greed of these people, they began to, should I say, centralize these things so that people might pay capitalization. And it started happening it stemmed from where they came from all the way here to what they call the United States and Canada. But regardless, we have to really pay attention. This was once a thriving place, very fertile soil. Now you have to use chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides and All these things because of the blundering and the foolishness of a foolish people that came to this land. Yes, I said it. I don't care how you feel, it's true. You can weigh it for yourself. Why would you destroy a good thing? Even if you came over here, why would you destroy something that's even destroyed the buffalo, saying, well, we don't need to give the Indians food? The buffalo wasn't the only food of the Indians. Or should I say those who were indigenous to the land. The buffalo was not the only food. You destroyed fruit trees, corn, and all kinds of things that have been in this land for thousands of years and that have fed the people of the land. And now the buffaloes throw it on reservations. And the same thing in Africa. Africa, you can't say anything because you're about colonized yourself. Look at what you do with your animals. They're in reservations. They throw it on different lands, and you have to fend these same people off so they won't. And then your own people sit up there and accommodate them, and in this, what you call it, making the certain animals extinct on the continent. They were already extinct in Europe over there, not Europe, but they were already extinct over in, should I say, the Northern Africa and on the northeast Africa, what you call Arabia, which is really only Israel and parts of Shem. So let's call a buck a buck. Ain't no sense in biting your tongue and being afraid to say what it is. It is what it is. Nobody of color did these things, and they know it, but they're trying to get you not to say it. It's so. I mean, these people didn't have all these coals and trying to heat themselves. They used the dead wood off the trees. They used the sun in the daytime was the heat. And in the winter, those that were in the snow countries, they had trees and different ways they found heat for themselves and how to kill animals and have things. These were black folks up in the northern area too. But somehow God have caused the thing to happen as though it happens, because he was really contemplating this thing for a long time until it culminated, till after the Persians. When the Persians had been defeated by the Grecians, then this thing, those nations have become enough that they should start taking over. And the sin of the children of Noah, not just Israel, of the children of Noah, have come to God's nostrils, and he brought a contrast of defeat to them. It's evident. There's no ifs, ands, and buts, no duh, whatever. And woman, you're not God. I'm sorry. You're just not God. You dominated every day by your husband. You're dominated by your boyfriend if you're walking out of the way of the Most High. And you're just dominated. How in the world are you going to call yourself God? That's foolish. That is really foolish. I mean, fools are known of her children, as I said, also the wise. Now, let us get out of that. Just calling a buck and making it real. You see it as you see it and say it. Stop trying to sugarcoat and being afraid of other men's stuff. We're in Jubilees chapter 60, I believe chapter 63, and we ended with verse 3, and we're in verse 4. Now, here it is, the Israelites are gone into captivity, and then because of the fear of the Egyptians, they are brought into bondage. And verse 4, and it came to pass in those days, in the 102nd year of Israel's going down to Egypt, that Pharaoh the king of Egypt died, and Milol his son reigned in his stead. And all the mighty men of Egypt and all that generation which knew Joseph and his brethren died in those days. And another generation rose up in their stead, which had not known the sons of Jacob, and all the good which they had done to them, and all their might in Egypt. Therefore all Egypt began from that day forth to embitter their lives, the lives of the sons of Jacob. Didn't say Israel, because Israel is a land. And to afflict them with all manner of hard labor, because they had not known their ancestors who had had delivered them in the days of famine. Now they did not know Joseph. They forgot. And this is what your 66 books accounts of. And this was also from the I Am. See, we said this before. It was from God. Not only all your chastisements and captivities, O Jacob, even the sons of Noah, is from the Most High. Is he evil? Yes, he's evil to you who count him evil, because your ways are evil. For the children of Israel to benefit them in their latter days, in order that all the children of Israel might know the I Am in their day, their God. Verse 8, in order to know the signs of the mighty wonders which the I Am would do in Egypt on account of this people, Israel, now it's Israel, in order that the children of Israel might fear the I Am God of their ancestors and walk in all his ways, they and their seed after them all the days. Now, this is God's plan for these events to the culmination to this event. That what? Why did he allow them to go into captivity? Why did he allow them to go into slavery? Why were you allowed, Jacob and the children of Noah? Why were you allowed to go into captivity and enslavement and colonization and all these things? What he says, in order to know the signs and mighty wonders which the I Am would do, I'm not going to say Egypt, on account of his people, in order that the children, I'm going to say this, Noah might be feared, but he narrowed it down to his very chosen, because the rest of the children of Noah had enslaved Israel, or should I say Jacob also. Now, if you follow me on that, if you don't, ask me what I just said. In all his ways, they and their seed after them, all the days of Millo was 20 years. Millo was 20 years old, and he began to reign, and he reigned 94 years. Now, this is about 100, yeah. It's 200, almost 200 years in Egypt they are. And all Egypt called his name Pharaoh. Now, we understood from the first part of the book of Jasher how the name Pharaoh came to be. Now, it was their custom to do every king who reigned over them in Egypt was to call him Pharaoh, yeah. And at that time, all the troops of Angus, king of Africa, or that land, it could have been Cush, it could have been any one of those. All those are English names, though. He didn't give them a name. He just said Africa. This is what the translator said. Now, you got to realize there's different people. There's one who conveys the history, and there's one who translates the history, and then you who perceives or comprehend what the translator says. There are three people in this whole thing. So how does this weigh with you is the question, whether you turn to God or not. Does it convict your heart? We shall see. God knows. And Angus, king of Africa, went forth to spread along the land of Chittim as usual for plunder. And Zepho, that was the ruler of Italy. Yes, he was a man of Negroid features and black. Yes, okay, we put that way. Afrocentric like looks is which they try to put it. But what is Afro? If Noah was before Afro, his sons were before Afro, or you can say Noahish or Shemith or Hemitish or Japhethith looks. You don't the wordplay. Watch it. Zepho smote the troops of the king of Africa with the edge of the sword and left none remaining of them, and not even one returned to his master in Africa, or the country called Africa. And Angus heard of this which Zepho the son of Eliphaz had done. Now he's an Edomite, or should I say the son of Esau. And he destroyed them. And Angus assembled all his troops and all the men of the land of Africa, a people numerous like the sand of the seashore. And Angus sent to Lucas, his brother, saying, "Come to me." with all thy men, and help me to smite Zepho and all the children of Chittim who have destroyed my men. And Lucas came with his whole army and a very great force to assist Angeas, his brother, to fight with Zepho and the children of Chittim. And Zepho and the children of Chittim heard this thing, and they were greatly afraid, and a great terror fell upon them in their hearts. And Zepho also sent a letter to the land of Edom. That's his kinfolk. To Hadad, the son of Bendad, king of Edom. Now, Bendad was not a, should I say, blood relative, because we know the Edomites did not like anyone that were of their people to rule over them. And all the children of Esau, saying, I have heard Angeas, king of Africa, is coming to us with his border for battle against us, and we are greatly afraid of him, for his army is very great, particularly as he comes against us with his brothers. So if this land was named, this country was named Africa, then the lie goes about Leo Africanus. That's another lie that's passed down. They're using that name because it was an African country. It could have been Ethiopia. It could have been Kush. It could have been Namibia. It could have been anywhere. We don't know. It had to be close to the Red Sea, if anything, and south of Egypt, because Africa was never a country. Africa was always a continent. But this is what they call the continent. Them folks. Okay? Now, therefore, come you also with me and help me, and we will fight together against Angeas and his brother Lucas. You will save us out of their hands, but if not, know ye that we shall die, all die. Now, you can also understand that in the book of Enoch, how that the angels, or should I say the watchers, taught men war. Why did they teach men war? They taught men war to war. Okay, that's one. But how did war come about? Jealousy. Lust, evil lust. There's nothing evil about lust, but when lust gets to the point where it covets, any covetousness tends toward adultery, tend toward war, tend toward demising murders and deceit. All the 10 commandments hang on covetousness, except for the ones about God. And then still coveting those, or desiring, or we can say desire. Covet is an English word. You can throw that word out if you want to. Let's just say desire. Desiring that which is not yours. Desiring something which is not yours can tend toward adultery, can tend toward lying, can tend toward many things. Even some of you that want to be a woman and you're not, or you want to be a man and you're not. You desire to be that, so you decide to make yourself that way. Some of you are white and wanted to be black, so you make yourself that way. And some of you black wanted to be white. Desire. Coveting. You're coveting something that you wasn't born with. You was coveting something that you was not, is not, and shall not be. And also those of you coveting things that are not yours, that belongs to another man. So you war, you lie, you cheat, you steal, even as money. Look at capitalism in today. It's the sign of coveting and desire. That's all it is. In an inordinate way. It's out of order. The order is, if you desire something that a man has, ask him. But you can't have his wife. He's not going to do that. That's impossible. Or her husband. So that she kick you out and she can be your only husband, but he can have more than one wife. Either way. Let's continue. Verse 19. And the children of Esau sent a letter to the children of Chittim, to Zepho their king, saying, we cannot fight against Angeas his people for a covenant of peace between us and thee these many years, from the days of Bela to the first king, and from the days of Joseph the son of Jacob, king of Egypt, with whom we fought on the other side of Jordan, when he buried his father. And when Zepho heard the words of his brethren, the children of Esau, he refrained from them, and Zepho was greatly afraid of Angeas. And Angeas and Lucas, his brother, arrayed all their forces, about 800,000 men, against the children of Chittim. And all the children of Chittim said unto Zepho, pray for us to the God of thy ancestors. Perhaps, or peradventure in the Old English, he may deliver us from the hand of Angeas and his army, for we have heard that he is a great God and that he delivers all who trust in him. And Zepho heard their words, and Zepho sought the I am, and he said, "Oh, I am God of Abraham and Isaac and my ancestors." Now this is Esau. Now he's talking right. Abraham was his father. And also Isaac was his father. Yes, this is what he's saying, because he was what? An Edomite. "This day I know that thou art a true God, and all the gods of the nations are vain and useless," because of all that he lost. "And remember now this day unto me thy covenant with Abraham our father, which our ancestors related unto us, and do graciously with me this day, for the sake of Abraham and for Isaac our father." Does that mean that he's the middleman? They are the mediators between God and them? I'm going to make this a buck. You say that Jesus is the mediator between God and man. That's a lie. If that's the case, the goats and bullocks were mediators. We can mediate for people, but there is no sure it's between you and God. Now, you can bring up those who have won the favor of the Most High through their obedience and their love for him. But the fact is that there is no middleman. The only wall of partition between you and God is your sin, period. That's the only petition between you and your God. You will not obey his statutes, his ordinances, and his commandments, nor his laws. This is the petition between you. This is the middleman between you and God, because the ordinances tell you what to do. And he's allowed even the Satans to set up where you cannot even get a goat. Many of us cannot get a goat, a lamb, a bullock. We cannot get none of those things. They slice it up. God don't want no heathen's hands or no sinner's hands touching his sacrifice. So this makes your story of this Jesus or this Esau or this Yahweh, his crucifixion, null and void. You don't have a proxy. Get out of here. Come on. Yo. Now, remember now this day unto me thy covenant with Abraham our father, which our ancestors related unto us, and do graciously with me this day for the sake of Abraham and Isaac our father, and save me from the children of Chittim, and from the hand of the king of Africa who comes against us for battle. Now he plainly prayed to God. Did he hold his hand together? Oh God, oh no. I don't know whether he looked up, bowed his knee, or bowed his head down. But he prayed. He talked to God. That's what it means. Now, when you come before a great authority, you do humble yourself or show a humble-like expression before him. I'm sure he did that. Yes. And the I am hearkened to the voice of Zepho. Now, Zepho was humble, and he had regard for him on account of Abraham, Isaac, and the I am delivered Zepho and the children of Chittim from the hand of Angeas and his people. And Zepho fought Angeas, the king of Africa, and all his people on that day. And the I am gave all the people of Angeas into the hand of the children of Chittim, Esau. And the battle was severe, and Angeas and Zepho smote all the men and Lucas, his brother, with the edge of the sword. And there fell from them unto that day about 400,000 men. A lot of blood. And when Angeas saw that all his men perished, he sent a letter to all the inhabitants of Africa to come to him, to assist him in battle. And he wrote in the letter saying, all who are found in Africa, or the country that was on that continent, let them come unto me, from 10 years old and upward, and let them all come to me. And behold, if he comes not, he shall die, and all that he has with his whole household, and the king will take. And all the rest of the inhabitants of Africa were terrified of the words of Angeas. And there went out the city about 300,000 men and boys from 10 years upward, and they came to Angeas. You say child abuse or whatever you want to call it, but that was their way. We have to call a buck a buck. Many of you have been so brainwashed by Western thought process, which is really to fearmonger you, and that those of authority might have their way with you. And at the end of the 10 days, Angus renewed the battle against Zepho and the children of Chittim. And the battle was very great and strong between them. And the army of Angus and Lucas Zepho sent many of the wounded to his hand, and 2,000 men of Zophah, the captain of the host of Angus, fell in that battle. And when Zophah had fallen, I'm messing that word up, I don't know, but the African troops turned their backs to flee. And they fled, and Angus and Lucas and his brother were with them. And Zepho, the children of Chittim, pursued them, and they smote them until them heavily on the road, about 200 men, and they pursued as Jubal, there's that ball word, and the sons of Angus who had fled with them, his father. These were, yes, they were pagans. And they smote 20 of his men in the road. And Asdrubal escaped from the children of Chittim, and they did not slay him. And Angus and Lucas and his brother fled with the rest of their men. This is the king of whom they say of Africa. More likely it was Ethiopia, Cush, or Cush at that time, or something like that. Yes. And Angus and Lucas, his brother, fled with the rest of their men, and they escaped and came into Africa with terror and consternation. See, he might have said Africa to throw those who do not know or understand off. Is what might, you have to look at this, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, because these people that translate, they're just as wicked. They might be telling you the truth, but they're going to try to throw you off some kind of way, because it is destined for them to do so. And Angus feared all the days lest Zepho the son of Eliphaz should go to war with him. And we're going to go a little bit into 64. And Balaam the son of Beor was at that time with Angus in battle. And when he saw Zepho prevail over Angus, he fled from there and came to Chittim. Now this is going to lead up to something. All this is leading up to something else. And you're going to see, this is really history. This is really history. This is the history of that region of the world. That yes, there were other people that went to other parts of the world, the Americas, because the land was what? Even in the book of Genesis, it says before the separation of what? Before the scattering of men and the dividing of the earth. In other words, the earth, the land of the earth, land, dividing of the land. Is that what it meant? The land? There was only one land. There was no Africa. There was no United States. There was no some of the islands weren't even there. And you ask yourself, how did people get on them? So here, the one who wants to confuse you, oh, they took ships and all this stuff. Yes, later on they did. But the fact is, most of the ships of that time, they were only going along the coastline. That's it, most of the boats, until they figured to venture out. And who ventured out first? It was the children of Ham who ventured out after. They knew, they had to know there was some people that were taken with that land that ventured out. But this is not told to you. These things are hidden. You have to realize who took over the archives of Egypt, who burned things, who tore things down. Now, this documentation is lost forever because of these. It's by the Most High's edict, yes. But the fact is, we know just by what archaeologists spilled the beans on that there were Egyptian artifacts, or there was Egyptian-like people in the Grand Canyon. Now, either they were going to Africa or they came from Africa, one of the two. But we know also that Ararat is in Africa. We know that, or not in Africa, but Ararat is on the other side of the Euphrates. And these people came toward the west. They start filtering west, north, east, all different directions. And they went as far as the eye or the ear could hear. and they multiplied in different places. But this is the place where God is talking about, the place where this is God's account, the why and what happened as far as Judah is concerned. This is God's account. This is the account that God wants to show you. Now, 1948, you can just scratch that out your head. That's just somebody that took over the land, just like they took over United States, just like they took over South Africa, just like they take over the land of Australia and different places where those people, the sons of Noah, be. Even Europe. There were no Caucasians there. There's no hate. It's just facts. Now, until a certain point in time. Same thing with this land that we're talking about, until a certain point in time. Now, we're going to end this with verse 64, verse 1. And with all this, we're going to say, stay woke and peace.
Walk with me.